Hello there. This is gonna be kind of a tutorial. I'm gonna talk about the AI and how to control it in fights. I hope that's gonna be useful. Let me first talk about some background information about the AI itself, how it works. The AI is basically uses three major objects. The first one is so-called the trigger. The trigger fires when something has happened. For example, it's one trigger that fires when the health of your character is low. The another one, probably the mob is attacking, or probably you receive some kind of a debuff, etc. There's several hundreds of them actually. The second object is the action. This is self-explanatory. The action is basically the action that your character can do. For example, I cast a spell, or start a melee attack, or maybe a ranged one, or to move somewhere, etc. And the third object, it's the most important one. It's so-called a strategy or tactic. It combines the triggers and the actions. It basically tells what action needs to be done if something happens. For example, one strategy tells that if the character's health is low, to, I don't know, cast a healing spell. Or another one, for the same trigger, if the health is low, to use a healing potion. And the control that you can use to your characters, it's basically switching the strategies and tactics. There's a lot of them, and if you have the add-on installed, you see there's a lot of buttons you can click, and all they do is to make your party member to use a different strategy or tactic. And you combine them, you can have fine control here and make them to do what you wanted them to do. Okay, let's talk about the fight now. The first, what you can do here is to switch the so-called the main tactics. Let me show that in different characters for a moment. So here I have a druid in my party, and the druid is actually a balanced class that can be used in different ways, and this is basically how you control it. For example, I could switch him to use a tactic for the tanking, a bear, and as you can see, it will transform to a bear and start to attack in this form. But if I need additional healing, for example, I could switch her to a healing mode, and she will use more healing spells. Or I could make her use a cast form, and this could be a caster, etc. So this is basically how you control a general behavior of your members. Alright, the next what I'm gonna talk about are those three buttons here. This is also a very important stuff. They basically control which mobs they should attack to. So you could tell that it's kind of a targeting system. There's three modes here, and the first one, which is active here, it's basically for tanking. It tells the AI to try to grab all the aggro if it is possible. So, for example, if I have multiple mobs attacking me, and I've got a tank in my party, and he sets to use that mode, and he will try to get the aggro of all mobs. He will switch the targets if necessary. For example, if the healer gets the aggro, and he will see that, and for example the mob is running near the healer, and the tank will try to intercept it and get the aggro back. So it's very important that you use this mode for tanks. The next one is actually a default one. It's used almost all the time, and it's called the assist mode. It basically means that the AI will help you and attack all the mobs that you already aggroed, or if you tell him to attack something, it will do and continue. But what is actually important about this mode is that if you have more than one mob attacking you, the AI will prioritize the mobs with the least health. So basically that makes sense, because the weakest ones, they usually the most dangerous. They are casters, for example, and it's the most efficient way to kill. So to kill the weakest ones first and then move to the others. This is basically how it works. So for example, if I start to attack those two spiders now, and let me show this. For example, I told him to attack this, I'm attacking that, and you see that health of this mod is actually lower, and he actually changes the attention to this mod and tries to finish it first, and only then to switch to that. This is how it works. If you want to for the AI to stick to some specific target, you need to make use of the arrayed target icons. Let me show it in a different place here. Okay, I found two another spiders here. Let me continue. So if you want him to stick to the specific target, you should put arrayed target icon to it. Let me make sure I'm a leader of the party first.
Yes.
So if I put a skull target, or a skull icon to the target, and not here's a number of mods you can choose from, you could assign a specific icon to your party members. It's by default it's actually a skull. And now if I told him to attack it, he won't change the target until it's dead. What actually I found convenient and useful here, there's another mod, this one, and it will make the AI set the target icon automatically. So for example, if I tell him now go and attack, you see that he will mark the target, and now I can freely go and attack anything I want, and he won't switch his attention to my target until this one is dead. You could use that to your advantage. For example, if you have multiple members of your party, you could assign them, for example, different icons and control how they attack. So, for example, two members will attack one mob, another two the second one, etc. Everything is possible here. And the last mod is basically a defensive one. It could be used if you're attacking a very easy to kill mobs, and there's absolutely no point for the AI to help you. You can finish the mob yourself. And in this mod, it will attack the target only if it is attacking the character itself. So it will stick to the target, it will attack you, but if you are not finished with yours, it won't help you. The next one is actually self-explanatory. Well, it's very easy. It's how you choose between the melee and ranged combat. So there's two icons. You can switch them if you want to use melee, for example, or ranged. So the difference is it's quite easy. So in melee mode, the AI will run to the mob and attack it in close combat. But in ranged one, if it's already close enough, it will actually try to do the opposite. It will run away and maintain a distance and will attack from behind, or from a distance, sorry. But this is only useful if you have or either a tank in your party, or they have some kind of a crowd control and slow or other snare abilities. because otherwise they will just run from the mob indefinitely and won't be able to kill it. For example, here, I'll try to tank this mob for a bit. It's quite difficult to kill. I need to get some aggro to demonstrate this. Let me do that. You see now he runs away and starts attack from the distance. This is how basically works. But if I lose the aggro, this will actually be a bit of a problem because he runs away to her and she will start to try to, I don't know, run indefinitely. It's not a good idea. So okay, we killed him. So this is basically how it works. Yeah, but there's actually one important part here. Those mods, they can be disabled both. And that means that she will never go in a close combat or in a ranged one. She will stay where she is and try to use her ranged spells. But if the range is lost, she won't do anything. It's actually useful, for example, if you're in a very tight location, in a corridor or something like this, there's just no place to run away. And if you see that the AI is trying to run somewhere here, for example, then it thinks that it's not enough, she starts to run a little bit further and then moves here and now and so on. It's better to disable this mod and it will be much better. Okay, the next part I'm gonna talk about so-called formations and stances. This is basically how you control the position of your party members either around you or around the target. It's achieved by using those buttons here and there, all the same here. So basically for the single character this is called the whole group. Let's start with the formations. Formations is the way how they position themselves around you. The default one is called follow me. It's basically they form kind of a half of a circle around you. And this is useful, for example, to talk to an NPC. So for example here they will be in the range, and if I talk to the NPC, they all be able to do this as well. Generally, you will use this formation almost all the time. It can be used both for talking and both for combat. It's usually enough. The second one is called the melee formation. It's more kind of a workaround than the real formation here. Sometimes you will see that the AI it will choose some weird pathing, so they probably come them to follow you, and they decide to go in some strange direction. For example, go here and all the round and so on. And this is basically how you avoid this kind of engine limitation. So if you see them doing this, just try to switch to this formation. They'll use a different engine. It's basically the same engine that is used for pets. I mean, for hunter pets and for warlock demons. And it could probably help. And they'll try to form some kind of a circle around you. I have 4 of them, so it's basically a square, but if you have more, it will be a circle. You could use that for your advantage as well if you want. But other than that, I don't think that's really useful. I'm usually playing with that. The second one, the third one is basically more useful one. It allows you to get some kind of a position where the tank will be in front of your party, the melee DPS is next, and the casters and the healers will be in behind. It's useful for if you think your fight is going to be a tough one or you're in the dungeon. It could be useful because you can position your tank in the forward your group, he can actually pull the mobs, and especially if you're playing the caster and your healers, they will be in kind of safety here. And there's another one, the kind of very exotic here. For example, this makes them follow you, but to maintain a distance. You see, they do not follow me, but if I very far away, they start to follow and try to maintain some kind of a distance here. And this makes them move completely freely.
I will lead the way.
So you see, I think it's kind of for more role playing or something like this. Okay, so the next part is so-called stances. As I said, they control how the AI position themselves around the target. Default one here, it's actually the same as the default formation, and they will try to surround the target the same way they surround me here. So, for example, if I tell him to attack this,
This way.
so you see they're just trying to surround us. Let me find another target to show this more clearly.
Slow them all. Strike this fool. For the horde.
And that's it. The stances themselves, they more useful for melee characters, because the casters, they usually attack from the distance, and this mechanic is not used here. But for melee, it actually makes sense to switch the stances, and this allows you to get a better result, and this is what I showed you here. Let me skip those stance for a bit. This stance is basically for tanks. If you enable it, the tank will try to position the mob so that all the casters and other DPSs will be behind it. It works only if the tank has the aggro, so it will be able to position the mob. And you can see now, I don't know if it will work, it depends if you can imagine that. But you see that it tries that those two DPSs, they're actually behind you. And the next one is basically the complete opposite of that, and it's useful for DPSs and especially for rogues. It tells the AI to attack from behind. So those two, they actually work in combination here. And basically you set this for tank and this for other DPSs. This only works when DPS has no aggro, of course. And in this way, they will try to position themselves behind the target. You see, the rock is attacking behind. He moves. And this allows him to use some other abilities, such as backstab, for example, etc. And this one that I skipped here is so-called off-tank. It's only useful if you have multiple tanks in your party, and it prevents the off-tank to try to position the mob when the main tank already positioned it. So it won't actually make any havoc in your positions. It's useful this way. Two additional features I'll briefly talk about here is those two icons. You may find it useful sometimes. The aggressive mode is a kind of similar to those three. It means that the AI will just attack everything they see, and you can use this, for example, if you want to grind for something, I don't know, it can be used. And this don't rush, it means that passive mode could also be used sometimes. For example, if you're playing as a tank and you do not want others to start attacking, you could put them in a passive mode and get some aggro, and after that you disable it and they will start attacking. They actually have a bindings attached to them. I'll show them here now. So there they are, and this is actually very important what I'm going to talk about here. The add-on, it has some key bindings here that you can change. By default you can see they are here, and this is a very important command such as follow, stay, flee, attack, etc. Actually there's a 4 of the most important ones. Let me show you what they actually do. The first shortcut or key bindings is actually follow me. It's a Shift F by default.
I will lead the way.
If I click it, you see my character says follow me, and they basically start to follow me. But this is all what it's about. The second one is actually stay. It's a Shift G.
Wait.
And they will stay. But it's actually more useful than you think. It has some uses in combat as well. And generally, if you I don't know, doing some easy stuff, it's okay to put them in a follow mode. They will follow you, and if you say them to attack something, they will attack. And when the fight is done, they continue to follow. That's completely okay. But in tough fights, it's actually recommended to position them in an appropriate place, for example in dungeons, and command to stay. Why is that? Because in the follow mode, for example, if you have multiple mobs and they attack and one mob is dead, they will try to reposition themselves near the main characters, so near you, and so they won't go too far away from you. So they still kind of try to follow you. Sometimes this will lead to some unnecessary movements. They will come here and there, and to prevent that, you could put them in a stay mode, and they will attack and stay in place until all the mobs are dead. This is actually useful, and you should make use of it. And the last command is basically a flee. It's a Shift H.
Move your carcass.
It's kind of not really intuitive how to use it, because it makes it them not flee from the target, but it makes them follow you, and ignore everything else. So, for example, if the fight is unwinnable, I think you command them to flee and run away from the mob. And they will follow you, they will ignore the mob, and you can run away from it and probably lose the aggro and stop the combat, and this will help you for dying.
This way.
Another very important command is command to attack. It's a Shift A. It's basically what I use to tell them to attack. For example, I am here. I'm commanding them Shift A attack, and they started to do this.
Attack over here.
Another button that you'll probably find useful here is this. I've enabled it for all characters now. It actually tells them to be aware of other mobs that could be nearby, and if they think that they could aggro them, they will flee. For example, here I don't know it will work. Let me try that, because the mobs are kind of low level.
Leave none of
You see, they kind of tries to run away from it. I'll show you another example here. I think, for example, here this is a caster, but see, they do not attack him because they think they will aggro all the mobs. Basically, this makes no sense for now, but
incoming.
it allows me to CC it. I don't know. and prevent to aggro all the other mobs here. Or, for example, I don't know,
The way.
if I aggro this mob,
Back.
they run away from it. I could, for example, use a Nova and they start to attack it. So this is how it works. Yeah, but not that it only works. There's actually a way to run away and there's no other mobs. Because if there's no way to run, or this, for example, a caster, and there's no way to move it, it will put some strange situations where they try to run away indefinitely, and the fight is going to be unequal. So in that case, it's probably the best idea to disable that mode and use it only when you think it's really useful. But still, some dungeons, it actually makes sense to use that mode, and they kind of be more aware of the mob or other mobs, and you'll probably have a better time fighting. Okay, and another thing I want to briefly talk about is the crowd control. If you have, for example, a mage or a warlock on your party and has some spells to control your fight, for example, the polymorph, fear, etc., they will actually use it. They'll try to use on some stronger mob probably, or the mob that is on the distance, etc. But if you want, you could use the raid target icons. For example, if you put a moon to a mob, and this will actually tell the AI to favor that mob for crowd control, and the mage, for example, will try to cast polymorph on this mob, and the others, they won't attack it. It won't work all the time, and it depends how much health it has. And the AI could think that it's not a good idea, because it's, I don't know, it's almost dead or something. But in general, that could help. I don't know, they're kind of low level, I don't know if it's gonna work, but if I don't know, aggro them now, let's see. I've actually... There's just way too many of them, so it's using AoE instead, because he thinks that's more useful, and probably this is really it. But there's not that many. And you see, when there's one or two of them, he decides to, it actually makes sense now to polymorph, and he uses that. It's kind of makes sense because there's way too many of them, and there's no point to polymorph one. It's better to use AoE instead. And they do not attack it in this form. So that's basically it. And probably the last thing I want to talk about is the macro system. It's actually the standard WoW feature. It allows you to create macros. You can do lots of things there, and you could create them here and assign to your quick bar, and I don't know, either click them or use key bindings. And it's actually very useful. It's not, for example, I talked a lot about the raid icons, yes. And for example, here I've made the macro which allows me to set a moon icon. And I can now use it, key binding, to quickly turn and off this icon. So it actually allows me to finally control the targets of my members, while in combat it's much better than use the menus, etc. And the other example, for example, is this macro I'm using for tooling. That's basically uses the function to tell something in chat, and basically the command is, it tells the tank to cast or use the ability called shoot bow, and he has that ability, and this allows me, for example, to position him. Let me demonstrate that put him in the combat stance in forward, and I position themselves. Okay, let them finish looting, and then I'll click those buttons, and he actually, he's not in a good position. Let's wait. And he will start to shoot the bow and do the pull.
Aren't you lucky?
And one other thing I completely forgot about is this button. It allows basically tells the AI to watch for the aggro. It's especially useful in dungeons. If it is enabled, they will see how much threat or aggro they have, and if, for example, they just about to aggro the mob from tank, they will pause using the abilities, so the tank will get more threat, and this allows them to kind of play in a party and make sure the tank is basically tanking, and they do not aggro mobs from him. But if you play the regular quests, as I do in attack regular mobs, you probably disable that, because you have no tank, and they will do everything they want. There's a lot of things you can customize here. There's a lot of buttons. They have a tooltip. It's probably self-explanatory. For example, this shows the inventory. You can do some inventory management here. Or, I don't know, you could control should they save the mana, I don't know, use kind of less expensive spells, or you should basically boost the DPS, they use everything they've got. I don't know, some specific things like resurrect, I don't know, go run to the graveyard or so on. There's a lot of things, and just see them as they basically work. So probably that's all that I wanted to talk about the fight. So you could see the AI is quite customizable, and by controlling the tactics you could achieve good results. If you just click them randomly, they probably just run to different corners of the room and won't be able to kill anything. But if you know how to control, you could then work together as a party, and you'll do the dungeons late without any problems. So right, probably that's it. If you liked the video, click the like button, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.